A couple years ago, I started a series on the top 5 abandoned places in every state. There are still a bunch of states that I haven't done, but in today's episode, we are going to be covering the top 5 abandoned places in Florida. Coming in at number 5 on our list, we have the R.A. Jackson Abandoned Mansion. This mansion was built off of a beach in 1928 by Richard Arbuthnot Jackson. R.A. Jackson was the former vice president and general counsel to the Great Northern Railroad Company. Throughout his lifetime, he had amassed an estate of $600,000 for also being an attorney for several other railroad companies. That figure in 2025 would have been inflated to around $14 million. With that wealth, he built himself a beautiful Mediterranean-style mansion on the Atlantic Ocean. Unfortunately for Richard, he would only live in this estate for around 6 years, as in 1934, he fell and broke his hip and passed away a week later. This mansion passed ownership a couple times until the 1950s when it was bought by Charles F. Johnson, a local car dealer. He lived in this mansion till around the 1990s when he passed away. His wife Margaret would then inherit this house and live here until April 16, 2016, when she passed away at the age of 95. After she passed away, her mansion would then go abandoned and become reclaimed by the weather and nature. There have been several attempts to repair and renovate this place. Unfortunately, all have failed due to hurricanes and the salt water completely destroying any fixes and work that these people do. As of 2025, this mansion still remains abandoned, waiting for nature to reclaim it or somebody to fix it up. Coming in at number 4, we have the Bin Laden family abandoned mansion. This beautiful Mediterranean-style mansion is just 30 minutes from Disney World and holds one of the most unique stories in Florida. This mansion was built in 1928 by a New York chemist by the name of William Pratt. In the 1950s, this home was then sold to Earl S. Tupper. Earl was the inventor behind the world-famous brand Tupperware. In the 1950s, Earl had had a falling out with some senior members of his company, resulting in this company being moved from Massachusetts to Orlando. He settled on this nearly 6,000 square foot mansion as his place of dwelling within Florida. In the 1980s, this house would get sold again to perhaps its most controversial and well-known owner. A business owner by the name of Khalil purchased this house as a wedding gift for his spouse. This family lived within this house until 2001, when the unthinkable happened. On September 11th, 2001, the deadliest terror attack in United States history took place. As a result of this terrorist attack, nearly 3,000 innocent lives were taken. So how does this relate to Khalil? Khalil's last name was Bin Laden, and unfortunately, his half-brother, Osama, was the mastermind behind these horrific attacks. The FBI would later rule out Khalil and his direct family from any involvement of these attacks. Around 24 of the Bin Laden family were living in the United States at the time of the attacks. Most of those family members were evacuated from the United States out of fear of retaliation from their brother's actions. A little over a week after the attacks, Khalil evacuated his family from this Orlando home. This is an actual photo of Khalil about to board the very private jet that would take him from the United States for the last time. Fear of retaliation from his brother's actions caused him to leave everything behind in this mansion. A few years down the road in 2006, Khalil sold this house to a man by the name of Aleem Hussan. Aleem purchased this house in 2006 for $4 million. Controversy soon followed him, as in 2007, he was convicted for fraud. The newspaper, the Orlando Sentinel, revealed that he had stolen $9 million from his investors in a real estate scam. In court, he pleaded guilty and was sentenced to 7 years in jail, and as a result, this house was foreclosed upon. A few more years down the road, and this mansion found itself in another person's hands. In 2012, John LeClaire purchased this mansion with an intent to create a wedding venue. Shortly after he purchased the property, he renovated it and finally opened his wedding venue. Like many of the owners before him, he ran into trouble, and a few years later, he was on the news. His venue had closed, and he had taken people's deposits with him and not refunded them. This property would then again change hands to Gary and Dana English a few years later. They also would open up a wedding venue with little success. The property, even being as beautiful as it was, needed tons of renovations, and unfortunately, that cost a lot of money. In 2019, it was reported that they were going to sell some of the land around this mansion to create the funds. Developers were going to take the land that was being sold off and create it into apartments. However, that caused an uproar among local people in the town. Unfortunately for Gary and Dana, like so many people before them, they ran into trouble. In 2019, it was reported that they became bankrupt. The house would then switch hands for the final time in 2021, where it remained abandoned until 2024, when it was demolished. And with that note of closure, we will move on to our next place in Florida. Coming in at number 3, we have the Holyland Experience. In 1989, a pastor by the name of Marvin Rosenthal purchased land in Orlando, Florida. He had a dream of a massive biblical amusement park that would soon come true. Marvin was of Jewish and Russian descent, and he was the founder of the Christian organization Zion's Hope. For over a decade, he worked on this project and his dream until in 2001, this park was finally opened. His goal was to educate people on biblical experiences and to recreate the city of Jerusalem in the time frame when Jesus would have been walking in it. In its second year of business, the Holyland Experience opened up a massive scriptorium museum that included scrolls, old biblical artifacts, and historical Bibles. At the time, this particular exhibit was the 4th largest of its kind in the world. With its 43 attractions, the Holyland Experience was extremely successful within its first years, seeing well over 1 million people enter its gates and visit this park. The Holyland Experience even had some celebrity guests, including Bill Maher, a self-proclaimed atheist and comedian. The park remained under its initial ownership until 2007, when it was sold for around $35 million to the Trinity Broadcasting Network. Around that time, cracks were starting to show on the business side of things within this park, as they were around $8 million in debt. However, even with that, in 2012, they decided to take on their biggest project yet. In 2012, they opened up a 2,000-seat auditorium. It was built to replicate the Colosseum in Rome, and it also was off of the most busy highway in Florida, I-4. If you were traveling through Orlando, odds are you would see this building and wonder, what is this? Shows and reenactments of biblical events would be played in this theater. One of these shows, and probably the most popular of them, was the crucifixion of Jesus Christ. This theater was also used for church services and even concerts on some occasions. Just 4 years later, the park would start to see a significant decline in people attending it. From 2016 to about 2020, the park's attendance would drop about 50%. Unfortunately for the Holyland Experience, COVID would hit them hard, and they would be unable to remain open closing in 2021. They then sold the property to Advent Health for $32 million in 2021. Their plan was to demolish the property and then put an urgent care hospital in its place. We visited this property in 2023, just months before it was demolished. As of today, this emergency room has been opened up and there is no remains to this park. And with that, we move on to our next abandoned place. Coming in at number 2, we have the historic Harter Hall. In 1925, the famous architect from Florida, William Manley King, finished his massive project. He had just designed and built a beautiful 200-room hotel in the small town of Sebring off of a beautiful lake. It was so popular that it garnered the nickname one of the Great Dame Hotels of Florida. Harter Hall spared no expense and had immense activities, and there was no doubt that it was created for the higher class of the world. For its guests, this hotel offered activities like swimming, golfing, tennis, and much more. This hotel was built with a Spanish colonial architecture style. This type of architecture is based off of many houses that are off of the Mediterranean Sea, and it usually is accompanied by red brick roofs, stucco walls, and archways throughout these buildings. This hotel saw many celebrities such as Steve McQueen, Paul Newman, Mario Andretti, and many more. Even up to when it closed in 1986, it remained a popular hotspot for celebrities to stay at. Unfortunately for this property, the owners in 1986 were bankrupt, causing this institution and hotel to fall under. After it closed, attempt after attempt was made to try to reopen this property, and the projects ranged from another hotel to a massive condo complex. Unfortunately, until 2022, all of these projects had the same result. They all failed. In September 2022, a city council member by the name of Robert Blackman purchased the property for $4 million. His goal with this property is a complete and utter re-renovation with an opening of this hotel to its former glory. This project will be no easy feat, as 10 owners over the past 40 years have attempted to do the exact same thing as him. As of June 2025, Robert Blackman is still doing these renovations, and you can follow them on his Instagram page for this hotel at the historic Harter Hall Hotel. I also would strongly suggest against trespassing on this property, as it is no longer abandoned and you may be arrested without proper permissions. As of right now, only time will tell if these renovations will be successful. And with that being said, we're going to move on to our next abandoned place in Florida. At number 1, we have Disney's Discovery Island. In 1971, Walt Disney World would have their grand opening of Magic Kingdom. Just a couple years later, they would do one of their first additions, adding a theme park on an island. They named this attraction Treasure Island. This park was originally built with a pirate's theme, and it was a zoological area where guests could witness many different types of animals. Treasure Island was also located in the middle of Bay Lake, right near the Contemporary Resort. A few years after the initial opening of Treasure Island, Disney would then rename it to what it is known as now, and that is Discovery Island. This attraction also offered guests one of the largest aviaries in the world. If you do not know what an aviary is, An aviary is a large cage or building where birds are housed. In this particular case, Disney made it so you could walk through their aviary and witness these birds up close. This park remained open and successful for many years, but unfortunately that was about to change because Disney was about to make one of their biggest announcements. In 1998, Disney would open up their famous Animal Kingdom park. Animal Kingdom is the largest zoological theme park in the world, and as a result, it drew attention away from Discovery Island. Unfortunately, Animal Kingdom was becoming so popular that it was actually drawing people away from Discovery Island, causing that park to become a little bit obsolete. Due to the expenses that this island was costing and the lack of visitors, Disney made the business decision to close this park for good in 1999. Most of the animals here were relocated to Animal Kingdom as a result. Disney would then seemingly abandon this place, unfortunately. Even though this island was abandoned, guests could still view it by the monorail and boats into Magic Kingdom. Some people even became a little curious and began to sneak on this island. As a result of increased trespassing, Disney began to put up trail cameras on this island that would alert the local police. It is one of these trespassing occasions that gives us a really good idea of what this island looked like. In 2020, a man trespassed on this island, causing the Orlando police to chase after him with their body cameras filming. Though very decayed, you could still see a lot of remnants of the old park still there. I would strongly suggest against anybody from exploring this place, as not only does Disney have trail cameras up, but they also can arrest you and ban you from life from their parks if you trespass. As of June 2025, this park still sits abandoned, decaying and being overtaken by nature. And on that note, I will end my episode on the top 5 abandoned places in Florida with that.